What's up, rad lads? Today I get to do something I've wanted to do for a while, and that is interview someone that has worked on the games that I, and most likely you, love so much. So let's talk to Nate Purkeypile, ex-Bethesda developer. So go ahead,
Cool.
Nate.
All right. I'm Nate Purkeypile, and I've been in games for about 22 years now, and 14 of those years were at Bethesda, all the way from Fallout 3 to Starfield. And I was the lead artist on Fallout 76, and also like some of the DLC, like Point Lookout. And I've been a solo indie for about 5 years now.
Super cool. I have to say, I kind of hope to talk a little bit about Point Lookout, and you are also, was it creative co-lead, or you were in some sort of leadership position for the Pit DLC?
Yeah, I was lead artist on the Pit also.
Okay, lead artist. Thank you. I kind of want to talk to you about those. Fallout 3 was the Fallout that got me into the games, and
Nice.
I have a very special love for that game. And Point Lookout and The Pit are undisputably my two favorite DLCs.
Good taste.
And I'm not just saying that just to puff you up here, but um the Broken Steel kind of felt like they just finished the
Yeah,
plot a little bit in a way, and
I
added a
think
little
it's like
extra.
too action oriented for a lot of people too.
It's
Like
very
very much
it's
like set pieces and stuff, not like the norm how the normal game plays.
it absolutely is. Like, isn't the biggest decision there at the end where you're like, nuke the Enclave mobile base or nuke the Citadel? You're like, why would I do that? Why?
Yeah. Plus, ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's not even real. Like,
It's true. Yeah. And then Anchorage, I mean, that was even more linear,
yeah,
right? That
yeah,
operate like that was like Call of Duty,
for sure.
basically. And then you had Mothership Zeta, which
That's its own
um,
thing.
that is its own thing. That's
Technically, I worked on that one also. I did like a bunch of the lighting because like nobody else really knew how. We didn't have a lighting team or anything back then, so did a lot of
right.
the lighting on the games throughout time. We didn't have a lighting team until 76. I had one other person.
You're kidding me. So
Yeah.
you were the lighting team for every Fallout up until 76, basically.
I mean, there was like one effects artist who did some of the lighting, but I would say on like Fallout 4, for example, it's probably like 95% of the lighting is mine. And that was like half my job because I also had to like,
Wow.
build Diamond City, build all the
Right.
kits, all this other stuff. We're
So
not that big.
explain to me, because I've heard you say that a lot. These build kits.
Hmm.
I'm assuming they're basically you create a lot of the um, assets for like, hey, if we're wanting to make this kind of interior or this kind of space, we pull from this kit. Am I following that right? What is a kit?
Yeah, I mean that's basically right. And like Fallout 3, it was like big chunks of room. So you'll have like, oh, this is like a corner of a room, and here's a straight piece, and you like snap those together. But those are all like pretty rigid, right? So that's why Fallout 3's dungeons are feel more samey. But starting with Skyrim, started to like fracture those kits a lot. You could have a lot more like organic destruction and like platforms going wherever you wanted. Like because I did the cave kits in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and those are very different because 3 is very rigid, following like every turn is 90 degrees, for example. But Fallout 4 is completely organic with the way, or so, sorry, Skyrim is the cave kit that I
Sure,
did because
sure.
I refused to do another cave kit after that.
You're like, I'm done with caves.
Yeah,
I don't want to do any more caves. I mean, now when I think about it, I do think Fallout 4 had fewer caves. I mean,
yeah, there's not that many.
I guess would you say caves and underground are the same thing? Because I mean, there's portions of Fallout 4 where you're very much underground, but you're not in a cave. Like the mole rat area underneath the Red Rocket.
Yeah, so a lot of those are the cave kits that Robert
Okay.
did, and I did like the steam tunnels on Fallout 4.
Oh, nice.
So steam tunnels, the building kit, which is like most of the building,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and the industrial kit for like all the factories. And I use the term kit pretty loosely there because like the industrial kit is really just like a bunch of separate pipes and concrete structures that you can like throw together to make whatever kind of structure you want.
That is so interesting. So I was just for a video, I was running through the Corvega factory
Yep.
in Fallout 4. I'm guessing that's probably a pretty good example of like what these kinds of kits would be used for, right? Because you do have some like large tunnel areas that you go through, and then
Mhm.
you've got the rest of the factory. So
Yeah, that was the first test bed for the industrial kit, working with Jeff Brown on that one.
really very interesting. I mean, that makes sense considering it's fairly close to the starting point. It's
Yeah.
very much on like the route the game is kind of pushing you towards, you know, which is also interesting because that's where you find a super mutant behemoth and a power armored raider with a fat man. Like, like that's pretty
Yeah,
intense for,
a lot of people die there.
oh, I'm sure. That brings me to something I remember from an interview where you said in 76, you guys have data or had data, I don't know how it works, on where people would go, where they would like take pictures, like the selfies, where they would die. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like a whole data backend with all kinds of stuff, so you can see heat maps and stuff, and
Oh man.
it's
That
it's kind of cool because people are kind of like rivers, right? They're like flowing through the low spots and stuff, and like less people are up on the
oh.
edges of the hills and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that is so interesting to me. I would love to see something like that. I don't know how I would ever be able to get, be able to see some of that data, but I find that absolutely fascinating. So you can kind of see where most people have died. You said you could see where nukes were dropped, which made
Mhm.
sense. Probably the fissure site quite a bit.
Yeah, you definitely need to know how to interpret the data though, because
Okay.
I remember like at one point they're like, "Oh, we should totally do like a skin for the machete because it's like the most used melee weapon." And I was like, most people don't even melee. The only reason that's true is because there was like a corpse right outside the vault, so like everyone gets that. But then they switched to using guns,
Yeah.
whereas any legitimate melee player wasn't using that. So you definitely have to like know the context to interpret data
So,
correctly.
yeah, so that is a super interesting point. So, I guess is the data point, does it gather like if a player has it equipped or if the player has a certain weapon, or is it like if it's the
Yeah, because
weapons
it'll like track all
used?
the kills, right? And
Okay, so it tracks the kills.
so it's like, yeah, that's the most common. Like,
Are you sure about that?
yeah,
That's like saying the little party hat that you get when you walk out is the most common you know, headpiece or something like that. It's
right.
like, well, yeah, you kind of almost start with it. So,
Yeah, for a little bit.
yeah. I held on to that thing for a while. I'm not going to lie. It just seems so absurd, and in some ways that's what I love about Fallout. But
Hmm.
that's something we can I actually want to talk to you about a little later. I do want to know a little bit more about you personally. Um, what were some of your favorite games or game series growing up?
I'm kind of all over the place. So, I mean, obviously there's Fallout, and that's like why I went to Bethesda because I played the originals, but I also was big into like XCOM, and I was a big shooter person back in the day. So, like Doom, Quake, Half-Life. I made Half-Life mods way back when,
Hmm.
played a ton of Civ, had thousands of hours in Team Fortress.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of were partaking in many different kinds of genres. You started with the first Fallout, correct?
Hmm.
And then have you since played all of the Fallout games?
I have not played Brotherhood of Steel.
You're not a true fan. You're a fake.
I
uh,
have played the rest of them though. I
well,
didn't actually beat Tactics, but I played, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours of that.
okay. Tactics. So I kind of went into Tactics thinking, man, this doesn't seem like a Fallout game. It had the aesthetic and a lot of that stuff. Um, and as I played through it, it was oddly satisfying to play. Like I found it very satisfying to like set up little ambushes and stuff like that. I was like, okay, this is actually kind of fun to play. I don't know what were your thoughts on Fallout Tactics?
It was cool, but I think it was just like kind of dragging a little bit for me.
Okay.
And it kind of just made me want to play XCOM.
Okay.
Like I'm very particular about my like turn-based games.
Hmm. Did you play it turn-based or did you play it like real time? Because I think you can alternate between those two in the
Yeah,
settings.
you could, I think, which
Yeah,
I always think is that's got to be so hard to actually do. Because like, how do you balance it? It's like designing two games at that point.
right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I've never tried the turn-based with tactics. I played a lot of when I was growing up, like Command and Conquer, so like Red Alert 2. So the real time, combat and movement
Mhm.
feels a little bit more natural to me. I did really enjoy. Did you ever play the Heroes of Might and Magic games?
Yeah, I played a little bit of those a long time ago.
Yeah, like number three was and apparently still is the best one, and that was like 1995, six. I don't know. It was a
Yeah,
long time ago. So I also played quite a bit of turn based, so I could go either way. I think I do prefer the real time though, personally.
I think I just like prefer my strategy to be like turn-based and super strategic, and
Okay.
then if I want it real time, I'm go like full action. Like I'm gonna go play some Quake or something and
Right.
blow up some people.
Get the boomer shooters
Oh yeah.
as they're called these days, which I kind of love. I grew up in a family where like really violent video games weren't really allowed.
Yeah.
So I never really got to play things like Quake like during the time when Quake was huge. You know what I mean? Like Doom was like definitely off the table. Although I think it's funny, it's like, but mom, we're killing demons. That's a good thing, right?
I
So,
know. I definitely tried that argument. I don't think my
okay.
mom ever agreed with me on that.
Right? You're like, what's better than, killing demons? Um, but I do remember one very specific memory with Quake was that there was always this small group of people in high school that would figure out a way to get it on the school system so that
Hmm.
they could just, you know, LAN it up inside um, the computer lab, and it was just this constant cat and mouse game, and it was pretty awesome. You're like, hey, is Unreal? Can I get it? Right now, and you'd like go and you're like, hey, I can play it right now.
Yeah, I was one of those kids constantly
Oh,
installing
okay, that
Quake
was
on
you.
everything, distributing the floppies to everyone.
Let's see. We did talk about Fallout and that you were looking to work at Bethesda specifically because of Fallout. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I had already had friends there, like during the Oblivion era and stuff, and it was like, yeah, that's fine. And I liked Oblivion. That was the first Bethesda game I really got into. Like, kind of bounced off of Morrowind and Daggerfall, but I liked Oblivion a lot. But being a huge Fallout fan, like that got me to like apply.
Very
Just
cool.
very much wanted to make that. And the idea of it being first person was cool to me. Like some people were like purists about that, but
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool opportunity. And plus, I had already done a Metroid game at that point, which is another game, taking from a
A
different
third
perspective, making
person. Yep.
yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
and those
Which
turned out great.
they did. They did. And we'll just give you all the credit for that. How does that sound?
I only worked on the third one,
Yeah, you set the precedent, right? They're like, "Oh crap, we got to." My son actually is just playing his very first Metroid game, although it's one of the newer ones. So,
which one?
Beyond, I think it's called.
I don't think I actually played that one.
Yeah. It's one of the few you can get on the Switch 2 that's like has a Switch 2 version,
Okay, yeah.
so he's enjoying it. But to me it was always a 2D side scroller and I played it like on the Game Boy. That's how I did my Metroid gaming.
Mhm. Not with the Wii version. That's what the
Oh
third one
no.
was.
Oh no.
That was pretty cool.
Some games that worked great. Other games like Skyward Sword,
Hmm.
um, I don't. I couldn't wrap my head around. Or like, I don't know what it was. There was like a disconnect between what you had to do, which was really simple because it was very directional. Like slice vertically, slice horizontally, and like how that ended up translated into the game. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy. It's not as bad as the Connect, thankfully, because that was always like really cool in theory, but like kind of terrible at the actual detection of stuff.
In implementation, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. This is a good time. I have a few snap questions. They're just just blurt out an answer. You don't have to think about it a whole lot. And it's whenever I see you like getting tired or bored. So the first one is PlayStation or Xbox.
Uh, Historically, I would have said Xbox, but lately it's been PlayStation. Like,
Oh,
I don't even
interesting.
have I used to have both, but the latest generation, I only have a PS5. Like,
Is
uh,
that because of the games specifically, or
yeah, I mean, Microsoft's whole strategy, if you have a decent computer, there is like no reason to have an Xbox anymore. So, versus like a PS5, even if a lot of stuff did eventually come to the PC, like it wasn't there for quite a while.
no?
And I really like the PS5. Like that controller is actually pretty dope. The PS4 controller, not a fan. Battery life is terrible, but the
Mm,
5 is really nice. I like the adaptive triggers and stuff.
mm-hmm.
Much better controller.
Right. Well, and I think Sony, I don't know if they officially announced, but there's concerns that they'll stop porting their games, their titles to PC.
Yeah, I think they said it's like all their single player games are now going to be like console exclusive,
Yeah,
which
that's
it sucks as a consumer, but I understand why they're doing it. It's basically what I was saying about it. Xbox, like, why would you buy an Xbox? If you don't have a computer at all, sure, yeah, I get it. But
right. I guess the only thing that comes to my mind is generally speaking, the consoles, the makers are of them are either like coming in at a loss, like a loss leader, or kind of, um, breaking even. And
unless you're
so, unless you're yeah, that's true. That's true. Nintendo, they break all the rules. They make their own rules.
yeah,
Like they're just in their own universe over here. Everyone else is trying to, be Nintendo basically. Um, so I guess, if Sony's in that position where, hey, we discount the PS5s because once we got them, they're buying our games. Is it such a problem to be getting the games on the PC? Like if your consoles are your loss leader or where you break even, and the games is kind of where you make your money. I don't
well,
know.
then they're going to be getting a lot less games if more people are moving to PC and buying stuff on Steam versus all the stuff they would have maybe bought on consoles that they get a cut of everything.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And you would know a lot about Steam and taking their cut with your
Oh, yeah, I've helped fund some Gabe yacht money.
you're like, you know what? I deserve Half-Life 3.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue that Steam doesn't like do a good job. I mean, some people
Yeah.
might or whatever. Like they definitely are the best store out there, and the back end's pretty easy to use. But at the same time, I don't think it's contentious to say 30% is too high,
That is a lot. That's like,
and it goes down as you make more. So like the people who need that more, like little indies like
oh,
Steam, are the ones who don't get that discount until you hit some revenue thresholds that are pretty high.
I didn't know that.
So they
That,
wanted to discourage all those people who were going off making their own stores, right? Which was a
huh.
terrible idea, by the way. Everyone was doing that
Well,
and then just selling a lot less. Yeah, exactly. Bethesda did
Bethesda
it,
did
but
it for a
then
while.
and then moved back to Steam because like, hey, it's super hard to run a store and people are not going to buy your game. Like they're just
Right.
not going to install all these separate things.
Yeah, I think that ended up being part of the problem is you have like the Ubisoft and the EA and the I can't even.
Blizzard.
Yeah, Blizzard exactly. And then Bethesda had theirs for a little bit with 76.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of glad they rolled that back. I get why companies want to do it, but from
Oh
a
yeah, they love
consumer,
money.
yeah, they love money. Hey, that sounds like me.
Someone's taking our money. I want more money.
But at the same time, from the consumer perspective, you're kind of like, this sucks. I got how many launchers and how many logins and how many, like everything is just so scattered, all the
Yeah,
games. So
and a lot of them are like really laggy, and the UI is kind of
it's
not
true.
great. Like,
It's
ugh.
true. It's so true. And I do really like Steam. I'm also very scared of putting all my eggs in the Steam basket. So I do buy a lot of my games from GOG,
Yeah,
um,
that makes sense.
which
Have it forever, DRM free and whatnot.
exactly. And for a while, Fallout 3, I mean, you probably know this. The farther we got out from Fallout 3, the harder it was to get working on modern systems.
Right, because it had that whole like games for Windows Live thing, right?
It had games for Windows Live.
Yeah.
Um, it had a requirement for NVIDIA cards. That was
Hmm.
another one. And then there was something about the RAM because it was a 32-bit program. So if you had more than 2 gigs of RAM, which these days it's like your phone has more than 2 gigs of
Yeah.
RAM, then it would cause problems. So
I mean, that is part of the reason to get a console, I would say. Like, I make games, PC game all the time. PC gaming sucks sometimes.
it
So it's nice
does.
when stuff just works.
It does. It does. And this is a tangent, but this is the world we live in. I enjoy like handheld gaming mostly. Yo, that's right.
Yep. That's where I test all my games. That's how I play most of my games because I don't want to sit at my work machine at the end of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. That is me 100%. Cuz some people are like just game at your computer, you know? Like you buy this nice rig and it's like, yeah, but I'm at this computer all day.
Yeah, kind of depressing. Like, I got to get out of here.
That's
It's
it.
nice to just like go sit outside and play games or whatever. I can plug
Exactly.
it into my projector if I want.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, since you have a Steam Deck, it's going to be a little. You're obviously running Steam OS, unless you're like one of those wild people that put Windows on it for whatever reason.
Nah, the most I've done is there's like, what is it, Hero Launcher, so I can play some
Okay.
Epic Store stuff, basically, so I can play Hitman.
Hey, is that a series that you really like, Hitman?
Oh, I've played like a stupid amount of Hitman,
Oh,
hundreds of hours for
interesting.
sure.
Very cool. Very cool. I have an ally, and that one has
Yes.
Bazite on it. And I
Hmm.
think one of the issues I have with Steam OS is I have half my games on GOG, right?
Hmm.
And so to like import it into Steam OS, you kind of have to go through some extra
Yeah, a couple of
steps.
hoops.
And then like it doesn't have the display art, and so I have to like go find that, and I'm like, man. Anyway, that's kind of why I'm like trying not to put everything into Steam. I know some people they're like they are they're only Steam, you know. It's like where all their games are, Steam OS, Steam Deck, whatever.
I mean, I certainly have quite a few there. Almost like 900, I think.
I feel like that's a hallmark of getting older. When you're young, you have the time but not the money. When you're old, you have the
Hmm.
money but not the time. And so you just watch that library grow and you're like, I'm never playing all these games.
Yeah, isn't there like some meme? It's like my body's a machine that converts games to like it's like 0 minutes played.
I haven't seen that one. That's great though. And sadly, so true. So true. And especially once you have kids, I know from
Yep.
some of your interviews, I think you have
Hmm.
two kids, and like man, things get tough once once they show up. Gaming is hard,
Yeah, usually get in like maybe an hour a day.
right? Yeah, and for me, like multiplayer is just off the table.
Oh
Like
yeah, I tell people don't even bother inviting me because I might just have to like leave randomly.
that's it.
Schedule super erratic.
That's it exactly. And especially certain online games where you have to team up, to like tackle a dungeon or something like that. It's like there's zero chance I'm going to be able to do this because I'm just going to piss you guys off because,
Yeah,
it's like, hey, we need help with something. And it's like a single player game, pause, put it down, go help. Multiplayer,
yeah. This is
leave.
why I didn't play that much of like Sea of Thieves, even though I like love pirate stuff and they put in like a whole Monkey Island thing. But like the checkpoints were like so far apart, and like I don't even know when I'm going to be able to come back to this.
Right.
Just kind of had to stop.
All right. So you also love pirates. Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, I think my profile pic on Steam is actually Guybrush Threepwood.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. All right. I know you like pirates. I know you like monsters, and I know you like the forest and Hitman. Apparently,
Yeah,
that's quite the spread we got going on here.
liked pirates before it was cool. Same with zombies.
Everyone says that. Everyone says you liked pirates before the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah, basically because of Monkey Island.
Oh yeah. Oh geez, Monkey Island. That like the point and click.
Yeah, the old adventure games.
I feel like you kind of have to be a masochist to like truly love those games. Like,
I mean, going back to those games now, I'm very thankful how for how adventure games changed with like The Walking Dead, because it's like, you know what? Those puzzles are bad. They're just so arbitrary.
right, right. And they would try to just toy so much with like your expectations, which I don't think
Mhm.
is necessarily a bad thing, but when you could poison a game and not know it for hours because you picked something up. You're like, your gamer brain's like, I can pick it up. I'm picking it up. Like, this has got to have some use. You don't just give a player something to pick up if, and then you find out later, hey, or you don't even know actually why. Yeah, the game just kind of ends and you're like, what happened? But you like poisoned the game or whatever, Like,
Yeah, the Sierra games were
that's
not great
rough.
for doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The LucasArts ones were a little bit more forgiving, but still super obtuse. I remember there was this one puzzle that it took me like weeks to figure out, and it was where you had to like loosen a pipe or whatever, and I could not figure it out. It turns out you use like a monkey in your inventory because it's a monkey wrench. Get it?
You've got
And
to
like
be
you
kidding me.
fucking designers.
You're like, in what world would I pull out the monkey to?
Yeah,
Wow.
I just like never thought to even try it.
Sure. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, at some point, out of desperation, maybe I would have just started like clicking through stuff, like,
It's exactly
does
how
this
you
work? Does
end up
this
solving
work?
those things. You try
Yeah.
literally everything.
Which, if that's happening, is that good game design?
No. And that's why it was very much just being in those worlds and talking to people that was interesting, and why Walking Dead worked.
Yeah.
Is they're just like, oh, let's focus on the part that people actually enjoy.
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that. I get that. So I want to talk about you did a lot of lighting, as we kind of talked about, and not just the Fallout games, a lot of the Bethesda titles. Obviously, I'm going to focus a lot on Fallout because that's just who I am. I
I couldn't
appreciate.
tell.
Yeah, what gave it away? um, I appreciate the Elder Scrolls. I have never actually fully finished an Elder Scrolls game. I don't know why. Fallout just speaks to me on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And that's why I'm pretty happy that somehow I only worked on one, even though I was there for 14 years. Still not sure how they convinced like the higher ups to do that, honestly.
Did you actually just work on one though? Because if I look up all the Elder Scrolls games you worked on, let's see, hold on.
It's just Skyrim.
But saying just Skyrim, is it actually just Skyrim? It is. Oh shoot, I had them all. Where'd they go? Skyrim Original, Skyrim Special Edition, Skyrim Anniversary Edition.
I didn't have to do anything on those. I think,
Okay,
like the that newer version that came out. I think like Matt Carafano, the art director, and like one or two other people were the only artists who actually did anything on it. It was mostly code work. And
gotcha.
then, yeah, all those other billion versions, mostly coders and other people at random studios. A lot of them not even actually at the main studios.
Okay.
I don't even know how many versions there are now.
Honestly, I don't know either. If we're not just counting ports, because obviously that makes it even larger. But
Yeah,
I think there's at least like four main versions: special edition and legendary, and then anniversary or something like that. I mean, that
yeah.
was going to be one of my questions. Which one of those is your favorite? Which
Uh,
Skyrim's your favorite?
to be honest, I never played it past the first one because I got so sick of it. Like, I can't sit through that intro anymore. Like people, it's like a meme now and
Oh,
stuff.
it's
But
a
I had to be
meme.
in those meetings when
Yeah.
we were making it, watching that thing, the broken cart so many times. It's just like, man,
Well, and
I'm done.
you have some great stories about that too. You have the story about the cart hitting a bumblebee with the collision that wasn't set right, and so it would sometimes just cause the cart to just like enter the stratosphere, just like a
Yeah,
rocket, basically.
that one
Um,
was pretty amazing. Bug.
I kind of wish I could have been there when that happened, like the very first time. You guys, because you said you guys watched that so many times, you just got so sick of it. And then if I would have loved it just, the 1000th time or whatever it was, all of a sudden just like
It was wild. Everyone was just like, what just happened? Because it broke, obviously, like in all kinds of ways, but that was a new one.
Right. Well, what
Usually it would
so
just be like tipping off the road or whatever.
yeah. So
Most unstable cart.
I guess what was the like decision behind, hey, let's have this in-engine in-game versus just having, you know, some sort of not cutscene. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, like
Pre-rendered. Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they wanted it to be controllable so you can like look around and whatnot,
Sure.
but if I was making a decision, no way would I have simulated that cart. Like,
Interesting.
I have no idea. I'm sure somebody else has some justification for it, but it seemed like a giant pain to me because we totally did faked things like that, like the intro to Point Lookout, right? Where you're like on the boat coming through and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's definitely ways to fake that. Obviously, you can put something on a path and then you can look around still. Like,
Yeah.
not that hard.
I guess is that essentially what you did then in Point Lookout when you're on the Duchess kind of coming in? Just
Yeah, it's the whole fake trick that we do to move the player along like that. Like, there's a picture out there where there's like the dude with the train head.
yep.
You've probably seen.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yeah, and ironically, it's not even like
It's not a
so,
helmet, it's a glove, right?
exactly something. It's like so much of it is like unintuitive. You're like, okay, train head, that's cool. So you made the helmet. No, actually, it's a glove. Okay, I don't know what's going on.
This is how you solve things in games when you don't have code support.
Sure, sure, okay. I wanted to talk to you. We got a little bit into the fact that you did the lighting on a lot of these games. I think so, from my very uninformed opinion, just from what I've seen with mostly animation, lighting is very underappreciated. So if you're like, hey, I do lighting, it's like, neat. So you just like light stuff up or whatever. But if you see something prior to lighting and then look at it with lighting, it is like completely different. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like, it's amazing the difference it makes. So I personally, I think that is incredible. Do you feel like that's underappreciated? So like if you say, hey, I did the lighting on these games, are people like, oh, that's cool? Or are people like, do they actually show the appreciation you deserve?
It's probably a little underappreciated, but yeah, it's makes such a huge difference. It's nice to see the change right away. And it definitely has a huge impact on how a game plays, even because sometimes people would be like, oh, I'm getting lost in this dungeon or whatever. And that can totally be just a not even a design issue, but a lighting issue.
Interesting. So just because you can kind of use lighting as an indirect way to kind of show players, hey, this is where you need to go, or like,
Yeah.
can you
We would
expound on that?
I would use the term mothing the player because
Oh, I
players move
like
to the
that.
light.
I like that. Yeah. So you moth the player along to kind of guide, because it's become a little bit of a controversy. I think it's a little overblown, but with the Resident Evil remakes,
Yellow paint.
yellow paint.
Yep.
So you're saying the lighting, the mothing is kind of the yellow paint before yellow paint.
Yeah, it's like a more integrated and cohesive way of doing it without it being so obvious. Because obviously the Bethesda games really tried not doing that stuff. Because you would every once in a while get someone like, oh, why doesn't all the loot items glow and whatnot? It's like, man, just like look at it. It's in first person.
Right.
And a lot of that is just how you design the art, and then you don't necessarily have to do that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where it's the yellow paint and all that. Like in the Resident Evil games, it's like, oh, all the crates that you can break are yellow. It's like, well, maybe don't have other crates that don't break. Like,
Sure.
only have it one kind of thing that looks a certain way, and it
Sure.
doesn't have to be the yellow paint. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I
solvable issues in a lot of cases. That said, also sometimes watching people play games that you've designed can just be infuriating. Just go there, right
You're
there.
like, come on, this is so obvious.
Yeah, like in my indie game, some people get lost. They're like not sure where to go, and there's literally a 2 mile tall beam showing you where to go. But like some people never look up, so they're like just seeing like the forest and stuff.
Oh,
It's like
interesting.
just lift your head like at all, ever.
Just like, look at the world, take it all in. You spent so much time. Your game is beautiful, and I do
Thank
want to
you.
get to that. You are extremely talented as an artist, and you know making the worlds look memorable because
Mhm.
so many games I feel like you kind of go through it and play it, but nothing ever sticks out. Um, but especially like with Fallout 76, I feel like so many things stick out in my mind about the world. And there's a lot to
Mhm.
say about 76. The world is probably the best Fallout world that's ever been made.
Thanks.
So, yeah, you did a bang up job on that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun laying out the world and picking all the landmarks and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, and in some other interviews you've done, you've talked about going out, taking the pictures, going through books because the internet didn't have some of the more obscure, interesting things about West Virginia and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, that is very cool, and I want to talk about 76 quite a bit because
Sounds good.
there's a lot to say about that. Going into Point Lookout and the Pit, like I said, they're my two favorite Fallout 3 DLCs, and you can take full credit for that. That's just fine. Don't be humble.
Sure.
Would you say which of the DLCs would you say has like more of you? Like your what you like in a game or what you like in general between the Pit and Point Lookout.
I mean, definitely Point Lookout because like the pit, I was the lead artist, so I decided on like how stuff should look and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
for Point Lookout, I worked with Joel Burgess as co-lead, coming up with the entire pitch for the DLC itself and what all the locations were going to be, what the monster guys, like the hillbilly people were.
The Swamp Folk,
Yeah, I was very much channeling my growing up in the woods and like, okay, now let's murder some crazy rednecks.
which I find very interesting. You said in another interview, you guys very pointedly didn't do that with 76. You're like, hey,
Yeah.
we had our Point Lookout. We're not gonna do like backwood hillbilly redneck type. I mean, would you call them creatures? Would you call the swamp folk creatures at that point? They
Uh,
essentially act
and
like it.
they basically are. I mean, technically they're people, but they're so mutated and don't really act like normal people. So yeah, they're basically creatures, and it is very intentional, like you said. Like Point Lookout is 100% pulp horror. It even uses like old pulp horror comic fonts and stuff for the logo. It was never meant to be accurate for that region at all. Like there was even like a newspaper article from the Point Lookout area being like, "What is this? This is
Oh
so
no!
inaccurate."
Oh no!
Joel and I are reading it, just laughing.
You're like, yo, it's a
Sorry,
video game.
guys.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
now I'm going to make a note. I got to find that. I think that's super interesting. I mean, what did you know about like rural Maryland, right? Because that's where it takes place essentially. What did you know about it if you're from Oregon and that's where you grew up? Were you kind of having to pull on other people that are had a little bit more knowledge of Maryland, or did you guys just say like,
I would say it's very abstracted, and it's really just we liked the name of the place, and it was relatively close to where Fallout 3 was taking place. But like, other than the actual point that's coming out there, the geography has changed completely, and it doesn't actually look like that. So
right?
versus West Virginia and 76 is like very well researched and supposed to be like very, very authentic and not that kind of thing.
Yes, yes, that would definitely make sense. So, since you were a co-lead on Point Lookout, I mean, you were making decisions about obviously the setting and the design, but also like the main plot, right? And the side quests that were
Mm-hmm.
associated. I guess, um, can you explain to me a little bit about like where the ideas or how you guys formulated the plot and the various side quests? Was this something that someone had brewing for a while and they're like, hey, what if we have these guys and they're playing this pre-war game in the post-war, the great game as it's called or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in how you guys kind of came upon all this.
I think a lot of it just comes from like the setting and the visuals that we wanted. Like, made sense to have a whole like Lovecraftian undercurrent to the whole thing, but like a little bit of a southern feel with like the steamboat thing. But then we also knew we wanted the mansion, and then that dovetails into the whole like sci-fi twist to the thing. So it just kind of grows over time, but definitely started with the location and the overall feel of it.
Okay. So that's where you kind of start. You see the location, you're like, hey, it's close to the game. So that's, I mean, you guys obviously aren't going to do like the middle of Oklahoma or something, right? But
Right.
then you said you liked the name of Point Lookout. Is that the full name?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Point Lookout is like a real place.
And then you kind of went with the um, kind of how it felt, like what kind of feelings it invoked, and then you decided to take it into a more horror adjacent. I think that's the word you like to use a lot. It's
Yeah.
not it's not horror. It's kind of like it, right?
Yeah, it's not like totally terrifying. And especially because it has that pulpy angle. So you're not like, unless you consider like wrong turn movies to be like hardcore horror or something. But
Right. Which maybe maybe you need to reevaluate.
yeah.
For sure. So, Point Lookout, um, it's very interesting because you said it has this Lovecraftian undercurrent, but there's also a very obvious Lovecraftian part of it, which is that side quest with the Krivbekni, the
Hmm.
Black Halls, all of that stuff. Um, I wanted to ask you about Lovecraftian influence in Bethesda games as a whole because it is all over. Seriously, Fallout 3, Fallout 4. I know some of the Elder Scrolls have some of that.
Hmm.
76. Bethesda made a game. This was prior to you
Yeah.
working there. Call of Cthulhu. It just seems like are just a lot of the developers there just huge fans or like what is going on? Like why does this keep coming into their games?
So the Call of the Cthulhu one, that was a separate thing. It was just them publishing stuff. But all those other
Okay.
examples are things that like I was involved in. So I like Lovecraft and was always a big fan. So like
Mm.
I made the sculpture at the bottom of the Dunwich building, and like I think Joel was the one who did that dungeon. And then we worked together again on Point Lookout, and I snuck in some of the stuff in 76. Like I made the interloper and stuck
Yes.
it into the game. So I always just like having that aspect in the game where it's like, oh, there's like, the regular Fallouty stuff, little goofy robots and whatnot, but then there's like crazy ancient evils buried under everything.
Mhm.
So I like having a little bit of that in there. And I think people have liked that also and responded to it. It's a cool, different vibe to stumble across every now and then. And I think that's part of why those games work too, is that it's not one note, right? Like sometimes it's a horror experience, sometimes it's comedy, but then, yeah, cosmic horror also sometimes.
Just a little bit of cosmic horror.
Yeah.
That is what you just said kind of nails it for me when it comes to Fallout. I appreciate the breadth that
Hmm.
it's able to encapsulate and make you feel.
Yeah, there's very few things you can't do in a Fallout game. Like there's technically even ghosts and magic. Not often, but
Right. I mean, I've seen it argued that radiation is basically magic in Fallout, and I don't think that's too far
yes.
off. Like, I got my little rads here. My channels are I lean heavily into radiation
Hmm.
and all of that. Um, so a lot of times people are like, this doesn't make sense. You know, there's so much radiation still, like 200 years after the bombs fell, and radiation does this and it does that, but it doesn't do this. And it's like,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we technically know that, but also this is cooler.
right. Yeah, it
It's
is cooler.
it's kind of like when you're making an Elder Scrolls game. It's like, oh, how do you do this? You're like, a wizard did it. In Fallout, it's like it's radiation, science.
Exactly. Radiation or FEV. Those two seem
Yep.
to be like you can do anything with them, basically.
Hmm.
Um, so is it fair to say then you are to blame for all the Lovecraftian stuff?
Definitely a part of it. Like I'm not the only one. So like
you're
Joel was
you're an
involved in a lot of that too, but I'm
okay.
definitely a big chunk of that. Yeah.
So you're an enabler.
Yes, I am very much the weird horror guy.
I love it. Some people, I'm of the opinion that the Lovecraftian elements in the proper dose in the Fallout games are perfectly reasonable. I think they have a place. I think they add kind of a different dimension, which is interesting to the Fallout games. Some people disagree, and some people are like, hey, I want mutants, I want 1950s robots, and I want like techno fascists, and that's it. That's my Fallout game. And it's like,
I would say they haven't played enough of even the originals because the originals got pretty weird sometimes too. So
they definitely got weird.
that's
Fallout,
very much the surface level of what Fallout is.
I would agree. And Fallout 2 kind of took the weird
Maybe a little
to
too far into.
it took it to whole new levels.
Yeah.
I think there's like 3 Monty Python and the Holy Grail encounters that you can have.
Yeah, we were very intentional about making the pop culture references in 3 and 4 not as obvious because I think broadly speaking, most people agree that they went too far with that on 2.
Yeah, and I think Tim Kaine, I watched a lot of his videos on his channel, and he
Hmm.
talks about his thought with pop culture references in games is it needs to be funny even if you don't understand the
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to do it
Hmm.
because then you don't have a small group of people that totally get it and they're like, "Oh, this is funny," or this is great, and then a whole group of people that are like, "What does this even mean? I don't understand." Like everyone can kind of come away with it like, "Oh, I got a chuckle, like that was kind of funny, I guess," or whatever.
Yeah. Or you don't even notice that it's out of place. That can be good
Sure.
too. There's definitely some that are like terminal entries that are, it's like, oh, that actually is like lyrics from some metal song. I forgot what it was or whatever, but you wouldn't even know, basically.
Right. There are 2 instances I can think of. Well, there's one in Fallout 3 in the presidential subway tunnel,
Hmm.
and there's one in Fallout 4. It's the what is it called? The Bravo bunker where Paladin Dance, part of his main quest, his companion quest, takes you there because that's where you decide whether he lives or dies. But there's a
Hmm.
terminal in there, and it very much, and like you said, it's done in a way where you read it and you think that's kind of weird, kind of creepy because it's almost like there's a guy down there. He starts having hallucinations because he's hearing stuff on the radio waves, and then he sends the tape to DC because he's a communications or informations officer, and they're like, "Hey, this thing was blank," and he starts, he hears like bangs on the elevator, so you're like, "Okay, this guy's just kind of going insane," but
Hmm.
it's a reference to some Swedish metal band, like, and you had nothing to
Nice.
do with that.
No, that was probably like Eric Capone or something like that.
Okay,
I think
because
he's one of the people that put in like a few of the metal references.
gotcha, because that's another thing I learned. You're a metalhead.
Yes.
But you also go into different types. You kind of have kicks, I guess. Is that how you described it? Like you kind of get really into a certain genre and listen to it a lot, then you kind of drift to another one. I think you had mentioned like Irish punk and then neo synth wave.
Yep.
Um, I'm telling you, man, I know too much about you. I think like if this gets weird, just tell me, okay?
No, my music tastes are kind of all over the place. Like Boards of Canada is one of my favorite bands,
Okay,
but I
nice.
like which is super chill electronic music. And but yeah, we'll also listen to death metal.
Right. And at a certain point, you were into, I forget what you called it, natural something music where they use bones or something.
Oh yeah, like the band High Long, where it's all like primitive instruments and stuff.
Primitive. Thank you. That's the word I was
Yeah,
looking for.
that band is awesome. That's one of my favorite shows ever been to.
Interesting. All right, I'm gonna check them out. I also like to dabble and explore for a while. This is such a side tangent. For a while, when I would take my son to school, I'd be like, "Hey, what do you want to listen to?" And we were in this like Mongolian throat singing techno phase, and so
Oh yeah,
that's what we listened to.
I do like Mongolian throat singing. I
It,
can't say I've listened to it mixed with techno.
hey, go to
Listened to it
Spotify.
mixed with metal.
Eh, there you go. Go to Spotify. I mean, it has everything, or your music platform of choice.
Hmm.
Tell me what you think. It's
Cool.
weirdly entrancing. I don't know how to describe it, but
Can see that.
so the Lovecraft influence, you're into it. Joel Burgess is into it. I'm guessing a lot of other developers are like, "Hey, this is pretty cool" or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty common for people in the games industry to be Lovecraft fans.
Okay.
Yes, he was a horrible person, but they're still really interesting books.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation of art and artist and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
Um I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. You might know more about this than I, but the first Lovecraftian stories were coming out in the 30s and 40s. Is that right?
I would have to double check. Maybe 40s and 50s. I don't know.
At some point, it built up to where they were coming out in the pulp. Uh, the name escapes me. They were being published alongside other pulp fiction. It kind of
Hmm.
grew out of that milieu, that time where that was really popular.
Yeah.
And that is also the time that Fallout kind of tries to encapsulate or tries to pull on when it comes to cultural influence. So to me, I'm kind of like, hey, this was interesting. This was a force. This was well known during the time when Fallout's culture, like the point where it pulls from, was popular. So to
Hmm.
me, I'm like, it kind of fits in that way. Like if you are trying to argue it doesn't fit, it's like, hey, this was a part of the culture of the time that Fallout's pulling on.
Yeah. And it's very much not like modern slasher horror or something like that.
No, no, absolutely not. So in that way, for the way I feel, done in the right dosages, I don't want Fallout to become like go find Cthulhu. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what I want.
That's too
But
much. Yeah.
in the right dosages, it is fine, and it fits the kind of the culture that the games kind of draw on. But that's my personal take on the whole Cthulhu Lovecraftian elements of Fallout. So, slight tangent. Have you played Dredge?
Yes. I played and beat Dredge. I like that game a lot. Perfect vacation game.
That is so funny you said that. I primarily played it while on a trip as well.
Yeah. Like my kids were like asleep in the bedroom and I was in Cancun on like the deck playing Dredge.
Looking out at the ocean, you're like,
Yep.
that is so cool. I mean, that is very obviously Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Just so much about it. And that was a game I didn't necessarily think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. The mechanics are pretty straightforward, nothing crazy,
Yeah.
and I liked it.
Yeah. Good vibes. Not too hard. Not too long.
Not too long. That's another one.
Yeah. That's a huge plus with like I try and space out my giant games and play like play like 40, 50 indie games in the time it takes to beat some giant open world games. I
Absolutely.
mean, I say that having made a bunch of those, but still, like obviously, it's hard to play a lot of those.
Right. It feels like a big commitment.
Hmm.
Yeah. I do have to say about that game, I think I got the bad ending because to
Oh,
get
really?
to get the good ending, tell me if I'm wrong, it doesn't quite guide you to the good ending. If you just kind of go to the different areas, and do what you're supposed to do and come back, you just get the bad ending. There's like a little island that's somewhere. You kind of have to go out of your way to find it, and that's where you find the captain or a character that enables you to get the good ending. Um, so I got the default bad ending, and I was like, "Is this how it ends? What?"
Think I did the right thing and got that, but I was being pretty trying to find everything. I
Okay,
definitely fit some of the quests though. There was like one guy who's like, "Oh, find me fish or whatever," and I was like, "Yeah, whatever, I'll do later." And then he like starved to death or something. It's like, "Oh crap, that was timed."
right, yeah. I did not expect some of that. Um, maybe I should have, but I thought it was a really well designed game, so
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Lovecraftian, of course. Okay, there are some tonal shifts within the Fallout games.
Hmm.
I think Fallout 3, from a tonal perspective, was more similar to the original Fallouts. Tell me if you agree, disagree. That is my initial feeling.
I think so. Yeah, it has a much more oppressive atmosphere and art direction and stuff like that, as opposed to like 4 and 76, which are both a bit more vibrant and colorful, especially 76 when it's, I would sometimes use the term mid-apocalypse. It's like where you start in the forest, it's like not even that trash,
Yeah,
really. A lot of that could just look like West Virginia right now.
yeah,
And most of those regions on that half of the map look the way they do, not because of any nuclear apocalypse at all. Like mountaintop removal region or their ash heap, that is just what mountaintop removal looks like. And the toxic valley, that is purely industrial pollution from the chemicals spilling out from the factories.
yep,
So it's, which is also not so subtle commentary on environmental destruction within West Virginia and basically everywhere else.
absolutely. Um, Not to sidetrack too much, but 76 felt like it was more either aware or, yeah, maybe that's the word I want to use, aware of some of the interesting issues of real world West Virginia. So you
Mm-hmm.
talk about, environmental pollution. There's also the whole automation and workers rights type of thing.
Yeah.
I felt like 76 had more of that than probably any previous game.
Yeah. And we really wanted to reflect how that stuff has impacted the region. And there's lots of hugely important areas there. Like Blair Mountain is a massive deal historically. Like the Battle of Blair Mountain was a big deal.
Right.
So it made sense to include those. And yeah, I think it's just like is the natural fit for what we would be talking about in those regions.
Even in a world where we're so it's technically pretty far removed from where we are if we think of, when their world ended, right? That's like
Mm-hmm.
what 50ish years out. And so it's sometimes it's like, are some of these issues, would they be pertinent 50 years from now? But Fallout, you're really able to play, like, you don't have to stick to a timeline, right? Something that was pertinent or impactful. Like, think of Fallout 4 and how much of the like revolution it incorporates into itself.
Yeah.
You're like so far removed from that, but you have Minutemen and you have like crank, laser muskets and all of that. So I think that goes a little bit to what we were saying before about Fallout's so flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You're really able to do a lot with it, and that kind of thing just fits.
Yeah, and it reflects the different regions that those take place. Because, like in Boston, that stuff is a big deal, and you see a lot. And then it would make sense that people like embrace these things that might be sort of like a weird undercurrent and just like the tone of the area, and then that becomes like their whole personality once the world falls apart.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's great personally. But yeah, so the tonal shift from Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, we get more colorful, less oppressive, as you say. Although there's certainly areas like the glowing sea where,
Yeah,
and I love the glowing sea. In fact, I loved the attention to detail over Fallout 3, where you had trees. I mean, in the core of the glowing sea, there's almost no trees, right? As you get
yeah,
farther away, there are more trees, but they're bent away from the impact, and then
Yeah,
just so well. That was really well done. It really gave the impression that you're going into an impact zone. So
that's part of what I like about the shift over those games is getting more variety in them because like Fallout 3 is basically blue and green and like all kind of feels the same.
yeah,
So having more different regions that all feel distinct, I think is more fun for exploration and like long-term enjoyment of the game.
I think you're right. And 76 kind of took, I guess, what was kind of forming in Fallout 4 with various regions, because you very much do have glowing sea, city, marsh in kind of the southeast
Yeah,
area.
which is pretty tiny too.
Mm-hmm. And 76 just like ran with that.
Yeah, it was definitely like a huge goal of mine from the start to have those be much more distinct because I liked the feel of exploring like the Elder Scrolls games in the way you had all those very, very distinct regions.
Okay. So you would say that idea was kind of influenced by the Elder Scrolls, then these distinct
Yeah,
regions that.
yeah, I think it just feels better as a player to have it be a really big change, and each one of those regions can have their own sort of tone and feel.
Very cool. So Fallout 4 became a little more colorful, the map a little more varied. Although I remember in an interview you said Fallout 4 in the very early stages was actually much more colorful. You reference like Team Fortress basically levels of like popping reds and blues or whatever. I think.
Yeah, a lot less like noise on the textures and stuff like that. And since it was just me and Isfahan for a while, and it wasn't really ironed out at that point, we had to figure out the appropriate level of like grime in the textures because back in like Fallout 3, we didn't even have shadows or anything. So that's how all games then looked good. It's because you just like put a bunch of noise on everything. It's like, it looks so detailed. But as you get better with lighting, like you don't have to do that as much. It's like, yeah, stuff is all trashed and destroyed, but it doesn't have to be like just straight up noise. Like you just take like these rust overlay textures and just put it on everything.
Very interesting. The If I were to just express an opinion, Fallout Three's atmosphere is the most compelling to me. And
Mhm.
that is just pure opinion. Like I felt the oppressiveness as you said it. I felt like the hopelessness, and then contrasting that with some of the stuff that could and would happen that was either funny or zany or just crazy.
Mhm.
I loved I loved that contrast. Um, so one of the things you had mentioned as you kind of go into the next Fallout game is, I think the word you used was overhaul. So you kind of go into the game and you're like, we're going to overhaul it, or we're going to, change it in these meaningful ways. So one of the ways seems to be the ones that we just talked about. Sometimes it's a technological change, right? So with the
Mhm.
shadows, Fallout 3 had no shadows, which funnily enough, I had never realized. I played so much Fallout 3 and I had no idea until you said that. Um, and then Fallout 76. So in Fallout 4, you were like hand lighting everything.
Yeah, bouncing all of the light by hand, which is a lot of lights. It's like you might have like a light bulb in the corner, right? But then as that bounces off the walls and softens, like that's all extra lights moved around, dimmed by hand, which I would usually do blind, by the way, because normally in an editor you have like all these markers with like little light bulb, but when you have like 100 lights in a room, you can't see anything if you do that. So I would just be like duplicating and dragging around and reducing their brightness without actually seeing where the light was, just the effect of it.
That is crazy to me. I mean, I would that sounds like a lot of trial and error, but I would like to think at with all the experience you have and everything that you've done, you kind of have probably a pretty good feel for where stuff should be and how, what kind of effects it's going to have. Not to say you just go through, do it once, you're like, boom, perfect, never have to touch it. But you
No, but
probably
it
have a
does
good
become
idea.
like muscle memory, kind of like I know where that light actually should be based on how far I'm moving the mouse and whatnot. You just, yeah, if you've done thousands and thousands of lights, you definitely get a feel for it and how it should work.
Yeah, that is so impressive. But in Fallout 76, you didn't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, I worked with the team up in Montreal to overhaul the whole lighting system so it does bounce dynamically. So it would sort of bake the whole world down. And sometimes that means that the lighting is then baked lighting, right? And it's like static. But
Hmm.
what it does is it bakes how light would bounce, not what the result is. So basically, as long as the room doesn't change, you can then move the lights around and it'll update the reflections and bounce all the light for you. It's a pretty cool system.
That is so interesting. Yeah, and reflections, are they part of your job? Is like, hey
It,
Nate, you need to get in here, do your lighting thing. Are reflections part of that job?
it would be fairly automated in 76, but if you go and look at like Fallout 4, it was just built into the material. So if you look at stuff, it's like always the same Concord street and stuff. It's like completely inaccurate, which is why I had to like completely change almost every single texture from Fallout 4 to 76 to what they call PDR, which is like physically based rendering. So the
Okay.
textures all are done differently. So that was a lot of work.
Okay. That is so interesting. I know about, well, because I played Fallout 4, I know about the reflection thing. A lot of times you don't notice it. Sometimes it really stands out.
Yeah, it depends on how like clear the reflection is. If it's like fairly blurry, because you can set how rough the thing is for like how blurry or sharp the reflection is. But
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. I actually have a short that by the time this video's out, it'll have already aired, but it actually talks about the cube maps that were
hmm
used in Fallout 4 because that is actually, I think, as more time has gone on, I've seen and heard more and more and more about it. And it is so interesting to me that more people are picking up on this reflection thing. And they're like, why do I see these houses when I'm in, you know, I don't know, Far Harbor or something? Like,
yeah,
it's,
because it's a ton of work to actually do it for real.
I mean, yeah, that's a huge reason for it. There are, I think, at least three unique cube maps that I can think of. One is for the pre-war, when you have really shiny Codsworth. There's one for the memory den. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, that has to do more with the fact that the memory den has very unique lights. It's very red and it's black and red. Like the tiles are black and red, the lighting
Mhm.
is very red, stuff like that. And I think this, Concord with a blue sky reflection would have stood out just far too much. Or,
Yeah,
I mean, explain that. Is that accurate?
yeah, because it like washes the whole thing with the wrong colors, which really doesn't work in some cases. Like in a lot of areas, you could get away with it, but yeah, that definitely breaks down at some point.
So would that have been an instance? Would that have been something that you guys noticed as it was happening, and you're like, "Hey, this area needs its own cube map or reflection," or is that something in testing maybe where people are like, "Why is every glass thing in here blue or whatever?" Like where along the line, I guess, would that have happened? Do you think?
Probably like after it was lit, and then
Okay,
put in like a request for someone to capture a new one. Because I think only like one person even knew how to capture those because it's a weird format, right? Because it's a cube and you can't just like take a picture. There's
no.
very custom tools.
Well, and I've noticed too, it's especially apparent on the one in Concord. It's not even like you said, it's not one picture. It's actually it seems like several pictures that were kind of merged together. Because if you try and find where, you lay out the cube map, you're like, okay, where is this? There is no this in Concord. Like there is this house and there is this thing, but they're not next to each other. It's not this landscape view of Concord that was just slapped onto a cube map.
And it was captured at some certain point of time, and then Concord went through a lot of changes as well.
That's a great point. That's a great point because that would have been
It's
an early,
dynamic.
yeah, that would have been an early uh, location for you guys.
Yeah, that was like one of the first. So just like the intro to Skyrim, I have played through that Concord Museum way too many times.
You're like, Preston, screw you. I never want to
Oh
see
yeah.
you again.
When everyone was like starting to hate on him, was like, "Welcome to the club." Can't stand that guy.
Oh, people are going to feel so vindicated by that. Bethesda developer hates Preston Garvey.
Dude, he's so boring.
It is funny. I understand why the game kind of pushes you that way. The Minutemen are the default way to win the game. They're
Yeah.
they're kind of the yes man, if we want to analogize that in a way. And I understand it, but also when I play Fallout 4 now, I think more often than not, I don't even go through Concord. Or if I do, I
Mhm.
just shoot some raiders, loot them, and then just keep going.
Yeah. I, I'm gonna say the railroad's the best, but I'm totally biased. I just did all the art for the railroad.
Well, we need to we need to talk about the railroad because I have some I have some issues with the railroad, and I know you did the art for them, but like
Why don't
you,
they help people more? They're kind of assholes. Like, yeah, that's true.
yeah, there was a lot of people they were like, hey, why aren't they as invested in helping people in like real slavery as opposed to since
Yeah.
I think maybe that could have been addressed a little bit better in the game, you know? Like
Yeah.
maybe if they had a little bit of backstory that was like, oh, actually, we did kind of eradicate human slavery, and then we came upon this synth issue. Something like that could have been, I think, good enough for a lot of these people to accept.
Yeah, probably.
But the railroad, I wish had more to them. I guess I feel
Okay.
like. What were you gonna ask?
Just like in what way?
The railroad, they have the feeling that they're on the back foot, right? Because they lost the switchboard not long ago. There's constant little things that tell you about safe houses that get raided and killed and things like that. Um, and yet at the same time, it doesn't. I don't feel like they act like they're under this like immense immediate threat because and again this is something that people pound on getting access to the railroad, going to the place,
Is
password
let me guess, this is the
railroad.
password. Yeah. I definitely tried to get that chain and I was like, really?
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
And
good.
it's basically like saying the password is password. Like,
That's
come on, guys.
that's exactly it. And
Terrible
then
offset.
and then I mean you do have Deacon who's been spying on you, you know, as you do stuff, but it doesn't really matter what actions you take up until that point. If Deacon is spying on you and he sees you like murking people and you're just like an absolute asshole, he's still gonna like vouch for you when you first meet Desdemona and everybody
Yeah.
else. He's still like, hey, let's give him a chance. It's like, dude, did you see what I was doing back there? Like, you should not be giving me a chance. Like,
Yeah. I was high on Jet the entire time.
exactly. Which is kind of true. I used a lot of Jet in Fallout 4. And I
Hmm.
think I remember you saying in an interview you did too.
Oh yeah, it's super fun.
It's so fun. It is super fun. It's like I didn't really use chems a whole lot in the games leading up to 4. And then when I saw Jet and then you could slow down and like its tactical use, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome."
Yeah.
Like it's like my panic chem, You're in a battle and you're like, "Oh, I'm about to die." You like pump yourself with some Jet, do that extra damage or like psycho Jet.
Hmm.
So, I felt I felt good when you were like, "Yeah, I use Jet all the time." I was like, "Oh, me too."
Yeah. The guy told a story once, but like, yeah, I sold my wedding ring in the game to buy Jet. Real model citizen there.
Real model citizen. Hey, how long has she been dead for? Or he, I guess depends. I don't know.
Just moving on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's time. It's time to move on. We got our new love. It's Jet. So the railroad, for a lot of those reasons, they felt too trusting coming into them.
Yeah.
It felt a little simplistic to get to them, and so you're like, is the Institute that big of a threat? They couldn't figure this out. They have like ravens, they have crows that are spies. They've infiltrated so many places, and they weren't able to figure this out. It didn't quite meet the like the threat, I guess, that they seem to always be under. There was a
Yeah,
mismatch there for me, at least.
I think that's fair.
So I'm blaming you. Is that okay?
I
You
just did the art.
you took all the praise for Point Lookout in the pit. Yeah, now you're taking all the blame for the railroad. The art was supremely done. Did you do like the brick type of catacomb
Yeah, I did
designs?
like their headquarters and like the Old North Church and Freedom Trail stuff. Basically, any location you go on their quest line, I did worked with Ferret.
So that
Rest in peace.
that is exceptionally well done. That is one thing I love about Fallout 4, going underground and seeing the the old brick walls. That's something that sets it apart. I thought it was
Hmm.
so cool. And I haven't been to Boston. It's been a while since I've been to Boston. I live on the West Coast. And my understanding is that's very accurate for, that
For
old red
some stuff,
brick.
yeah, that's definitely a thing there. And I was the one that made the whole steam tunnel kit that's used elsewhere too, and I wanted it to be not just any other video game sewer, where they
Yes.
all look this like with concrete pipes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's part of why I wanted it to be that style.
Well, thank you. It it's really well done, but it
Thanks.
also I see it and I just instantly think of Fallout 4.
Hmm.
It's unique to that game. And as a player, I love when something is so unique to a game that it pulls me towards it, if that makes sense. It's like some people when they go on a trip, they listen to music they haven't really listened to before, and then later down the road, when they hear that music, they think of that place, they think of that time. For some things in the Fallout games, visuals and stuff like that, I have the same, you know, it has the same effect on me. And the like you said, the railroad area
Hmm.
with the brick and just it's so unique and it does that for me. So
I think it's always good when building a place to find those unique elements of it and reflect that, because a lot of games end up kind of looking the same and doing the same kind of locations over and over. And there's just so many different kinds of places that exist in the world. So I don't personally think that's necessary. If I have to play another factory map, like, oh, I mean, I know we did like the industrial buildings and stuff, but I think we had like at least our own twist on it, and it didn't look like every other like post-apocalyptic factory thing.
yes. Yes. Yeah. You guys did a really good job. Fallout 4 was, in my opinion, a very good looking game. I did like the color palette with the blues and the reds, those stand out. And it's
Hmm.
also it seems appropriate for the time period, right? Because those like light blues and stuff like that seemed pretty appropriate. So to see those falling apart, kind of rusted,
Hmm.
I thought it was pretty great.
Took a long time to settle on those exact shades of blue
You
and that
did it.
red, because it's like this slightly orange tint to it and stuff. Yeah, Keith and I talk
Interesting.
about that a lot. Because like
Interesting.
everybody in their Photoshop, because we were using Photoshop to do textures at the time, like had those specific colors in there on as swatches, right?
Right.
It's a very obviously conscious decision to have those common colors throughout things. And rust is like a very certain color, and then
That's
you
true.
get like the slightly brighter orange rim on the rust, that's also a specific color.
That is a great point. Yeah. I mean, I think that's. Are you sick and tired of making things look like shit, for lack of a better term?
Well, I haven't had to do it for a while now, so
That's true.
it's definitely a lot of work to do destruction and stuff, though. To Because doing a wall easy enough, but as soon as you punch through a wall, like you got like layers of paint peeling back, and then like how is the wood in there, and then like the wooden studs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you break the wood, that has to have like splinters, like that. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. Destruction is complicated.
Yes. And you have to know how that stuff is actually built. So I have like all these architecture books and stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's like not 100% accurate, but it's accurate enough.
Right.
All the concrete has like the rebar going through it, and all these little touches for how the different things break.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about something you had talked about in another interview. You called it corpse art. You did a lot of corpse art.
Yes.
And so, first off, I want to know, I've seen you use a program in one of the, I think it was the No Clip documentary, where you had like little inspiration images and stuff like that. Where do you come up with the corpse art stuff, man? I've got to
I mean,
know.
I don't keep a reference board of corpses.
Okay,
That said,
because that's what I was wondering.
other people have though, like Grant Struthers, who made like the flying giblets and stuff in Fallout 3 when people explode. He
Yeah,
had a lot of that stuff up, and he had to put a sign outside of his desk, like warning, like not if you look at this, you might barf, kind of thing.
right. Like not safe
But
for work at work.
yeah, but for me, yeah, I've just watched a lot of horror movies, and for some reason, and ended up in a position where I was doing that in a bunch of different games. From like Blood Rain 2, Fallout 3, I did like meat bags, heads on spikes and whatnot. Fallout 4, I did that also, and Fallout 3, I did the corpse ducking, where it's like a
Oh yeah.
corpse with an arm in it, and it has a skull on it that's a lamp. It's like I
Yes.
mostly did that one for the lulz.
I mean, fans noticed it because it's a known thing, right? I think they even, yeah, what do they call it? Do they call it the turducken, the corpse ducking? I can't
I
remember
don't
what
know
it's
what they
called,
call it, but
but
I called it the corpse ducking.
that's that is perfection. So I'm curious about this because there is a segment of Fallout players that or fans that think that especially the raider areas go a little too hard towards gore, if that makes sense. So it's like,
Mhm.
you're in a world, you're scraping by, you're not a great person because you're killing people and taking their stuff. If you have a bunch of dead bodies laying around, you're like, yeah, this will intimidate people, I'm guessing. It also would be stinky
Yeah,
and
questionable hygiene.
disease ridden. Like there's a number of reasons why it's like, hey, that's pretty gross. So I'm guessing that's not your necessarily your choice when it comes to choosing like the raider aesthetic, or is it? Or did someone come to you and they're like, "Hey, this is kind of how we want it," and you're like, "Okay, I can do the corpse art," or how does that
No, I
work?
think a lot of it I just did because I needed some corpses, like when I was doing Paradise Falls, because I made that city also. So I just took the bodies that we had and cut them up and made them into decorations. And even though it is obviously not a good idea from like a public health perspective, there's
Fuck
certainly a historical precedent for the fact that a lot of people in the past have done this kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
And it is part of that reverting to older ways that happens when society falls apart. And you're kind of supposed to think that those people are just vastly irresponsible, crazy people.
That is very interesting. I did a video on my main channel that's literally says like it's titled "Why Do Raiders Live Like This" or something like that, and it's very validating to hear you say this because one of the things I did is I kind of broke it down. It seemed like there were sometimes where like another it'd be a fellow raider like it was obviously they're in raider clothes or whatever and they'd be
Yeah.
strung up or and it's like hey maybe this is the type of example where someone did something and the leader was
Yeah.
like you're dead, it's a punishment type thing and it serves as an example. It's like you don't cross the boss type of thing.
Exactly.
And then there's others where it's very much a settler or a waster. They have just normal clothes. And like you said, it in the past that kind of served as like a warning, like, hey, you don't want to mess with us. This is what we'll do to you. But also intimidation, you know,
Mhm.
showing an example of punishment. And then there were some examples where I'm like, this is just straight up just like sadism, just like disconnected, just, like barbaric. Like there's doesn't seem to be a reason for this.
Yeah, all of those reasons can occur. There's a lot of different personalities at work, and you got to reflect that when you're doing a whole world. Like, not everyone is going to be super responsible Minutemen, nice people building nice houses. Some people will go completely off the rails and
Yeah.
probably drunk and high the entire time.
Well, yeah, and that's a big part of it too, right? Raiders, it's kind of hard to disassociate like chems, like being chemmed up and just out of your gourd, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I feel slightly vindicated now that you've said that. Um, with the Raiders, and more than just that, Raiders they have a very specific gore aesthetic. Super mutants have a whole other gore aesthetic, right?
Yes.
They have meat bags. Raiders don't have meat bags.
Mm-hmm.
They Raiders. I think one of my favorite from Fallout 3 was like there's a mattress with like a body that's like either tied or something to like the corners and its head is missing. You see it all over the place and it's like what the like what is going on with this? But I'm guessing that's a very specific design decision. Is that do you want to? Is it where you're trying to signal to players like you're off in the distance, you haven't been spotted yet, you haven't even necessarily seen what enemy it is, but because there's gore bags, it's got to be super mutants, right?
Yeah, it was 100% like the gore bags and those like eye beams that are shaved off into spikes
Yes.
meant to warn you that it's because you don't want to be surprised. I mean, sometimes you want to be surprised, but
Mhm.
you want to give a warning to players that they could get into like some deep shit. Got to be careful.
Right. So that's a game design decision first and foremost, you would say.
Yeah, because you kind of want to reflect what the encounter type is going to be for a region,
Right.
or not region, but location, like a specific
Location.
area. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a little bit off of this arc of Fallout changing over time. We get to Fallout 76. It has huge distinct regions, which I love, by the way. I think that's great. It has arguably even more color.
Hmm.
I think it is even more removed from Fallout 3, especially, and I'd like to hear your take on this, especially in the realm of like the trailers. Some trailers bordered on the word that comes to mind is like whimsical in a way. Like I
Hmm.
specifically think of one trailer where like I think everyone's like shooting guns and stuff and they're just like smiling and like twirling around or something. I'll have to find the trailer.
Is it the live action one? That has like it's like the sound of music spinning, but with guns.
Yes,
Is
I
it?
think that might be it.
Yeah.
Contrast that with Fallout 3, which did have some like silly little trailers. You know, there's like is his name Timmy or something, the little boy with like the striped shirt and he's like golly jeepers and he ends up with a fat man or something like that. But like I feel like those are very different. Can
Yeah.
you speak to this continual shift away from kind of what we saw with Fallout 3, the smaller change with Fallout 4, and then an even, more larger change with Fallout 76?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is that 76 is meant to be a game played with your friends and to have fun. And a lot of people don't necessarily want to be sad in the apocalypse for their go-to online game for years and years. So like, yeah, that's part of why I picked different regions and stuff that had like it's fairly comforting when you get into the forest. Like I don't want you to be sad for a decade if you're going to play this game. Like as much as I loved the tone of those original ones and stuff, it is a game that you are meant to play for a far longer period of time and in a more social way in a lot of cases.
Okay.
So I think that's part of it.
Okay. That makes sense. With the release of Fallout 76, the very first trailer we saw something very unique we haven't seen in any Fallout game to date, and that was the please stand by screen and the TV had color.
Hmm.
we see this shift over time to like more colorful, more colorful, more colorful. All of a sudden the TV has color. Is that part of this shift, or was showing a color TV something that was like unprecedented, signaling this is a game that stands out from the rest mostly because of multiplayer? Like, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's part of that. And there was instances of color TVs, I think, in the games before, just not in those particular videos. So we're like, well, what if this one did have that? But yeah, I don't know any more about why we decided to do that. I forgot.
That's all right. That's all
I'm sure
right.
we had that discussion.
Okay. That was just something I was thinking about. You know, was this meant
Hmm.
to? Because at the time when you watched it, if you've played the previous Fallout games, you're like, whoa, this is different. Like, what's going on here? And then you learn it's a multiplayer. And then you start learning more about it, and you're like, whoa, this is like not what I was expecting, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, it's not Fallout 5,
No.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, you also have mentioned that there's a through line between Point Lookout, which was Fallout 3. You kind of skipped Fallout 4, but I would almost think of Far Harbor in this way. And then 76, and then your new game, The Axis
Hmm.
Unseen, with spooky forest horror. Or like spooky, yeah, forest horror, spooky. I can't remember exactly how you phrased it.
Yeah.
Can you first elaborate a little bit on spooky forest horror, the term you use? Is it just being in the forest and being scared, or like is there more to it?
Yeah, it's basically just various horror things that take place in the forest because I grew up out in the woods in Oregon, thinking about monsters all the time, getting in trouble for writing stories about ghosts and Sickle Man in grade school.
Yeah.
So I think I just naturally gravitated towards that angle for horror.
Okay.
So that's why I've done a number of things. And even my latest one, which I'm going to announce in a few weeks,
Oh.
does involve horror in forests, at least in part, not
Okay.
in the entirety,
Sure.
but
Because
with more
Axis.
of like a 1980s twist on this one.
Oh, I like what I'm hearing. Axis Unseen, the horror is pretty prevalent. So is the metal
Hmm.
aspect. Metal in both literally music, but also in the aesthetic, right?
Yeah, with the giant skeletons and everything. It's definitely meant to be what I imagine a metal cover or like the world I see when I listen to that stuff and made real.
Right. So that kind of like perfectly, oh, not perfectly, that largely encapsulates these things that have influenced you over time as a developer, specifically with like art and stuff like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
There's no like hidden trauma with Forrest, is there? You didn't
I
like.
mean, it's scary people in the forest. There's always trauma.
Just wasn't sure if you're
But,
pulling on like a very specific like childhood memory of like,
well, I wasn't chased by Bigfoot, but I have been chased through the forest with a knife and shot at. Like
excuse me, with
it
a
happens. And yeah,
okay, the shot at thing I can kind of
yeah.
believe.
There's getting shot at is just what happens in Oregon if you happen to stumble in the wrong place in the woods.
Sure.
Like, get off my land. Like, man, you're shooting at kids. That's messed up.
But also being chased with a knife is like a little more involved than shooting with a gun, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
that's,
more
I would say
intimate. Okay.
Boy Scouts are crazy.
Well, what kind of okay, you can't just say especially the knife thing in passing. What is with that?
Because, yeah, in Boy Scouts, people would play pranks on each other and stuff all the times. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people would get pissed and fist fights would break out. Sometimes you would pull a prank and then get chased by someone with a giant knife and have to run very fast. And
Yeah.
that was the same camping trip where one of the guys in my troop decided it would be funny to throw bullets in the campfire.
Oh.
So everyone
Yeah.
had to hide behind trees until the bullets fired.
Right. You're like, did we throw 9 or did we throw 10? Oh crap, we don't
Right.
know. Has
Like,
anybody
I
been
want to go.
counting?
Who wants s'mores? Fuck no.
Yeah, right. Not worth it. That is, I love. hearing about that. I also kind of grew up in not in a city, more rural. So I'm from Utah,
Hmm.
and we lived like in the mountains. So you'd go up the canyon, far enough that like cell phones didn't work, that type of thing. I had one friend that lived so far up, they ran off a generator, that type of
Wow. Yeah.
thing. And I went through Boy Scouts as well, so I love hearing this. Like it just seems. Although I didn't become obsessed with monsters in the forest, so
Hey, it worked out okay.
it worked out okay. Hey, maybe the scout that was chasing you, he was just trying to get his manslaughter merit badge.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Little butcher knife on
little
a little merit badge.
butcher knife. I don't even think we were allowed to have knives that big. I think we had like our Swiss Army or like whittle knives, but
Oh yeah,
that's
we had big ones back then. They didn't care. I still have the knife that my dad gave me when I was 11, and it's like about to hear on my arm. It is ridiculous. I was like, holy crap, you gave this to me when I was 11? Because it's like etched in there for when I got it. I was like, nope, I was 11.
that is really cool though. Is it
Very
like a?
trusting.
It's very
Yeah, it's a
trusting.
giant Bowie knife.
Okay, so it is a Bowie knife,
Yeah,
which I think showed up for the first time in '76, right?
maybe that's why I put that on the list.
Uh, uh, I love it. Oh, one of the big '76 things I wanted to talk about was the removal, or I guess just non-development of human NPCs, except
Mhm.
for the overseer, I guess. But largely at the beginning of Fallout 76, I am really fascinated with this design choice. Could you explain a little bit of where it came from?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just the fact that it came from more of a survival game genre that existed at the time, like DayZ and stuff was popular, and
Okay.
most of those games did not have quests or anything at all. So it was a way to have quests and stuff like that without being like, oh, who's a player or who's not. And obviously that shifted over time, and I think the game is better for it. But yeah, I think if it wasn't for the fact that it was a Fallout game and people expected that to be that way with people, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal.
I 100% agree with that assessment. If you're coming out with a new game and it's like, hey, this is the way it is, it's survival and there's no NPCs, it's just you and the world and whoever's in it, other
Yeah,
players.
like if they put quests in like Rust or something like that.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was a very bold choice that I would say. Was there any internal resistance to that? Like, was there pushback? Were there people saying, like, I don't know, this might be going too far away from what people expect? Or I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, I mean, definitely had some people who pushed against that, and thankfully they got added in later. So it also takes more time to do that because then you
Yeah.
also have to not rely on like terminal entries as much. Like obviously there were some holotapes and stuff, but
Yes.
then you have to have more outfits and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime you had human NPCs, there is a bigger overhead. Plus, a lot more ways that things can break. And then that like instance dungeons didn't exist until Wastelanders, where you could have like a quest space where it was your quest space to do that.
That's
You're
right.
not just like having some dude wander in there and just like shoot your quest giver in the head.
Right.
Like, whoops. If you think you're gonna do that quest, too bad.
hope you didn't want hope you didn't want to finish that.
Yeah. That requires a fair amount of tech to be able to handle that in a multiplayer environment like that. Because
Absolutely.
natively that just wasn't a thing.
Absolutely. So where would you have placed yourself on the spectrum of like super gung ho about no human NPCs and we shouldn't do this at all?
I was kind of the opinion that we should have found a way to do it from the start, even if it was like talking to a live person on a radio, like interactively, not just getting talked at,
Interesting.
or someone behind a cage, something like that. So I personally don't think I would have done it unless the game was simply a smaller scale game. Like
Hmm.
if it was like a $20-$30 game or whatever, I think also that has very different ramifications for what the expectations are. But it was a full price game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was full priced. It's huge. The map is enormous. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, so a lot of effort went into it. And it also came out like if we're being honest and looking at the way Bethesda's releasing stuff, came out pretty quick after Fallout 4.
I think it was like 3 years.
That's pretty
Yeah,
quick. You know, if you think about like Fallout 3 to 4, you think of all the Elder, Skyrim in between there, like all this different stuff. Like,
yeah, because Fallout 4 took us about 4 years, I think, to make. That was the longest one.
yeah. So, was not having these human NPCs seen as a way? I mean, obviously, it's a design choice and you have the reasons for it, but was it also a way to like get 76 done quicker?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's a hard game to make. Taking an engine that is not multiplayer at all and making that an online multiplayer game is a massive tech lift.
And then make the game bigger with more
Yeah, which
stuff.
obviously was a very big argument that I had to have. Like, no, really, we actually need all this space. Like, really, you're gonna like quadruple the time, which isn't exactly how that works. It doesn't necessarily take 4 times as long.
Sure. But so you were a big advocate for the big map. I know you were a
Hmm.
big advocate for the distinct regions, which I think is great. Thank you for doing that. I guess when I think about 76, you spoke about how you heavily advocated for a more rural setting.
Hmm.
Fallout 3 was big city, urban. Fallout 4 had a lot of urban environment. It also had some pretty sparse areas,
Yeah,
but 76 is totally different. Do you think
yeah,
part of having a larger map was because of that rural placement?
yeah. Because it's not gonna feel like you're out in the wilderness if it's like, oh, the city's like right there. It's all jammed. Plus, you're going to have camp building, right? So it's like, where are
Yes.
you even going to build the camps if you don't have space in between? Which also has like tech and performance ramifications. If
Yep.
everything was squished together, then it's going to run worse. You're not necessarily even going to be able to put camps there without it running bad. So
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of reasons for it to actually need that kind of space to pull off things. And for it being a live service game, like what if you want to add stuff? Like need extra room to add in locations or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, uh, I think maybe I'm wrong. The Wastelanders update seemed like the biggest update to the existing map. So,
Yeah,
locations that you'd been to before, the spaceship, which you advocated for. You've been wanting to do a crash spaceship for a while, right?
yeah. I was that like I mentioned pitching DLC for Fallout 3. I mean, I had also been pitching the space station all the way back then. And then on 76, I was like, I'm in charge. I'm putting it in.
You're like, this is happening now.
Yep.
I think that was a very cool element to it
Thanks.
because I mean, yeah, you think about it. There's stuff in space. It requires attention, right?
Mhm.
It needs whether it's like actively making sure that you push it out a little further or that it stays on course or whatever.
Yeah, or they avoid space debris and whatnot. So
Exactly,
those things will
exactly,
decay and crash over time.
exactly. I think, hey, maybe you're the inspiration for this. I think the only other instance in the Fallout universe that we have of that, not counting aliens, they don't count in this. We're talking human spacecraft. Was the Fallout TV show in the very first season where Wilzig he decides like, hey, you're gonna cut off my head. They're like propped up against. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's a old Soviet satellite.
Hmm. It reminds me around the same time, though, I was watching that show, The 100, and it has like a city built around a crashed space station that's like the exact
Oh.
kind of round kind. I was like, what the heck? And then they also have this super nice mansion that's like isolated from everything, and it's kind of like the Greenbrier. It's like, man, did we like go on the same wavelength here? It was weird.
Yeah, because so those didn't serve as inspirations. That was just kind of like
No,
convergent creativity.
yep.
How interesting.
I remember even sending a picture around and being like, hey, guys, look at this. This is wild.
So, part of my main channel is I got my start comparing things in Fallout to the real world and being like, hey, this is heavily based on this. It seems like they pulled on this design for this. Could you do part of my job for me and tell me what did you pull on for that crash spaceship in 76?
No, it's very much like the old pulp sci-fi book covers. Like that's the kind of spaceship design that they used on that kind of thing. So I wanted to reflect that pulp sci-fi kind of thing.
Okay. Is there any specific one that just pops into your mind when you're like, the best example is, or is it just a general?
It's just a general thing because I feel like so many of them did that kind of space station that it just kept kind of like absorbed into my brain to be like, obviously it should be like this shape.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the
And plus, it makes like a really distinct silhouette that
that's
stands
true.
out from everything else.
That's true. What is your headcanon for why it was able to crash in a way where it's obviously crashed, but it's not obliterated? It's not just, space debris on the ground.
Well, I mean, you could say, oh, they were firing the engines so it doesn't fall as fast. But really, it's just like the actual answer is like, it looks sick this way.
Yeah.
Versus if it was just like this field of
Yeah, a
metal
debris
chunks, you're like,
field.
whatever.
Right. Sure. Like a failed controlled crash, basic. Or is it, can
Sure,
you
it's
fail?
science.
It's science, bro. Can you fit? I have my channel is a lot of people, they really like these kinds of explanations. So even if you could just, give a plausible one, that goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it would be that they were trying to slow their descent.
Okay. Um, we are coming up on time, but there was one more thing, and this is actually a good segue to that. As an artist working with designers and other artists, is there any consideration given to new designs of existing items or creatures? And like there's kind of a tension there. If you're really invested in the games, you see a Deathclaw in Fallout 3, like this is a Deathclaw. You see it in New Vegas and you're like, it's mostly the same. Okay. Then in Fallout 4 it's different, right?
Mhm.
And then in the TV show, it's even a little more different. Do you guys acknowledge that tension? Is there any discussion at all about like, hey, this is really different from what the players saw? Or do you guys just say like, eh,
Yeah, no, like it definitely is a discussion, I think, and there's a push and a pull there. But in a lot of cases, I think it's like if we feel like we've gotten better at our jobs and can do something that is more thought out and feel like we're better artists at the time. Like if you look at power armor in Fallout 3 versus Fallout 4, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who thinks that like the metal pants that you put on in Fallout 3 are the superior version compared to
but
like all the thought that Eastbound put into building out the like actually functional power armor in Fallout 4.
right. So that's a great example of like just a full out retcon. You're just like, hey, this is this is how power armor works. We
Yeah,
showed
it's like
it.
that's what we could do at the time, but it was like, it's
Right. Right. I think one of my favorite things about the power armor, specifically like the T-45 in Fallout 3, if you notice like up near the thighs, like near the groin, like there's a lot of like they're basically almost clipping into each other. I'm like, can you
yeah.
imagine the noise that would make? Like in this metal suit, you're just like creak, 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 like every step. So
Yeah, but that obviously requires this massive lift to then do like a whole new set of animations and stuff because it doesn't just walk like a person anymore.
yeah,
It's the
absolutely.
power armor.
Absolutely. Well, and we see due to some bugs what you have to do to like the actual human
Oh
model,
yeah, that
right? You get
happened
like the
all the time in '76. That it's like that weird cryptid. People even call it like the skinny guy.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Exactly. It makes me think of that old cartoon with the guy that was obsessed with spoons, rusty spoons. He had like these salad fingers. It like reminds
oh
me of
yeah,
that with
salad
like
fingers.
that just dated us right there. Nobody knows what that is anymore.
The olden internet, yes.
Yeah,
Back in
bygone.
that day.
Exactly. This is what we had to entertain us. Yeah. So, okay, I'm glad to know that there is discussion when we're changing models and stuff. I think an interesting example of that was the change from the Nuka-Cola bottles, which were very Coke, like 1950s era, and even before Coke bottles, to these like rocket shapes, which someone pointed out to me one time. They're like, that thing would be so annoying to hold if it was cold and getting condensation. Like it would just like slip right out. Like
Yeah,
I'm like, that's a good point.
yeah. I think they just wanted to make it more distinct too, because it was like too Coke looking, I think, before.
So it was distinct, and in a loading screen, it actually says like something along the lines of due to pressure from like a rival or a competitor, Nuka-Cola changed their bottle design so as not to get sued. And like,
Like, I wonder if that was someone's real commentary on if Coke ever got mad at them.
right? That's what I'm wondering too. I'm
Like, I
like,
have no idea if that actually happened, but
sure,
could
sure.
have.
Yeah, and so that's an instance where we see a change, but then it's addressed in the game. I mean, it's a loading screen, so who knows how many people saw it and made the connection, but um, and it's kind of addressed, and you're like, okay, there was some sort of legal blah 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 whatever, but sometimes there's just like a full on change, and I think
Mhm.
one example was like the Mirelurk Kings in Fallout 3. They're this like creature from the Black Lagoon looking like psychic. They have this like psychic component to them, to these like frog amphibian animals. Like they seem more animalistic, whereas before they
Mhm.
seem more humanoid. And so, as players that are probably too much into this, making
Mhm.
sense of these worlds, they're like, oh, in this region, you know, there's this kind of Mirelurk King, and in these regions, there's this kind of Mirelurk King.
That's what I would say, probably.
Okay,
And then people just use the same name for things that might have localized differences. Like they're related, but not the same.
sure.
Because I mean, they're mutated creatures, anyways. Like they
Hmm.
probably would not consistently mutate.
Yeah, that's a great point. And 76 does throw a small complication in that it's so much earlier than these other games.
Yeah,
And its Mirelurk Kings are like the ones in 4. So then you're like, okay, these first evolved, I guess, and then later on, and competition, and the ones in the capital. Like,
yeah.
like some people, they really think about this, and I guess I was just
It's like,
always
well,
wondering.
we had the model and it worked.
It looks badass. Let's just run with it. Um, I've always wondered how much thought is on the production side because the fans think about this stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, sometimes people think about it more than the devs. Not to say that things don't have a lot of thought behind things, but there's
Right.
definitely been like a random small things put in, like how I put in the interloper, right?
Yeah.
But then you see like these 2 hour long conspiracy videos on it and stuff. And you're like, man, I didn't even spend 2 hours making that thing.
You're like, I'm learning things about the thing I made.
Yeah. Well, people, same with the Sickle Man thing. People had all these conspiracy theories about who Sickle Man is, and it was based on my fifth grade story.
Right. Right.
That's
It's
like my take that fifth grade teacher.
Yeah, right. The one that was all concerned, like talk to your parents, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Nate, there's something going on." You're like, "Proved you wrong." That's like your Eminem moment where all of his teachers that said he would turn out to be nothing or whatever.
Basically, yeah.
That's so cool. Um, Let me see if I can ask one more thing here. You talked about related to the interloper, that model. Early on, you guys weren't sure about the big bad at the end of the 76 um, storyline, or like the release storyline. I guess it's kind of like been extended now.
Mhm.
It was a consideration. Like I think you said there was like concept art or something of the
Yeah, I think that's
interloper
out there.
type, and it's like amongst the trees, which very, very clear connections or allusions to Axis Unseen, right? With the tree golems. And
Yeah. So I like weird tall things.
yeah, yeah. Um, what was that, I guess, evolution like of figuring out the big bad for 76?
I mean, obviously, I like went through a lot of different discussions on like what it could be, and there's even like on Seneca Rocks, it has that vulture thing pinned on the wall, and that was,
Exactly.
I mean, that even got a whole model made, but then it was like, it's not quite imposing enough because it was kind of skinny and stuff like that. But it was a cool model, so I thought it was a good way to use it
Mm-hmm.
as another thing that like adds mystery to the world for like, how did that thing get up there? And
Who killed it?
yeah, who killed it?
Yeah.
Something crazy's going on there.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and I looked at the concept art. There was also like a winged reptilian, had like death claw feet, but it wasn't a death claw. That was in the
Yeah.
concept art as a Scorch Beast, you know. You guys ended up landing on the bat though, and I
Mhm.
think with the Scorch Plague angle, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense and makes sense with caves and bats and
Diseases.
yeah.
So you guys basically manifested into the real world COVID,
Wait, how?
bat disease,
Oh,
plague.
yeah. Yeah, we knew it was
What
coming.
you didn't make that connection before?
No,
Giant bat spreads a disease, and then how many years later? 3 years, 2 years? I don't
well,
know.
hopefully we're not right about too much more then.
Right? I know. Sometimes I play Fallout and I'm like, that happened in Fallout. Oh gosh, like we are not on the right path here. So I'm blaming you guys for that as well.
I'll take it.
Um,
Maybe we're psychic.
maybe, maybe. So you alluded to coming out about a game that you're working on. You said in maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, you can catch it on the PC Gaming Show on June 7th. It will be revealed.
All
So
right.
excited to show that one. Been doing private playtests for a while, going very well.
All right. Oh, I'm super excited. Um,
And that's why I have this right here is because I need to test multiplayer by myself.
uh, did you just say multiplayer?
I did.
All right.
Sort of
I do
escalating
not.
the complexity of my games.
I was gonna say that's what you've said in the past. You're like single player. It's you know, it's almost like exponential when you go multiplayer, like the workload.
Yeah, this is actually why I did a tiny game after the Axis Unseen, that one where you have called Deedly Doo Parkour with the Play-Doh cars that rocket jump. But I made that multiplayer as opposed to taking this giant open world game and like, oh, I'm just gonna
Okay.
make it multiplayer, no big deal.
So that was like the
So,
proof of concept you kind of built.
mhm.
Man, respect, respect. I would love to talk to you a lot more about all of this stuff. But you have your game Axis, the Axis Unseen.
Yep, and it's on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation now. There's even a physical version now that people can get for the PS5.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
All right. And then you have your next big project, which I guess we can look forward to being announced. I'm going to try and get this out a little bit before that,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Then yeah, June 7th, PC Gaming Show.
June 7th. That's so cool. Nate, I really appreciate you. I had a blast talking to you, both in West Virginia and here now. If at some point in the future you have a spare hour or two, I would love to talk to you again. But if not, I understand.
Yeah, it was great talking. And yeah, maybe after I announce the next thing, because then I can not just hint at things.
Right. Yeah, we can talk about it. Talk about it. Great. Thank you so much, Nate. I hope to talk to you again soon, and I'm looking forward to this new game.
Very cool. Great talking.